Okay, so finally getting around to this, I figured a video would be the fastest way to answer the questions. So, uh, how and when did you first become interested in biohacking? Um, that was basically around 2005 when I first put the implant in my left hand, which is still here. It really wasn't called biohacking at that point in time, but it was just a solution that I thought was a good one to replace my keys. So I was thinking about ways to let the door just know that it was me, so to let me in at my office. And biometric systems like fingerprint scanners and iris scanners, they were just clunky and not well suited for outdoors, and they're not much better today. RFID access badges where you just pop it up to the door. Those are reliable and cheap and robust, and it just made sense. But I didn't think replacing a metal key with a plastic card made much sense. So I thought about the chips that pets were getting, and I thought, well, that's RFID technology, and it's very old, and it's reliable, and the pets have been getting them by the millions for years and years and years. So why not me? And yeah, I got the implant put in, and um, essentially from that point on, the public got wind of what I had done, and then like the maker revolution really got underway, and then the concept of biohacking, hacking your biology in different ways, really took on a kind of its own shape and form, and what we do, it kind of fell under that umbrella of biology hacking. So yeah, let's see. The next question. You've said before that biohacking is the next form or phase of human evolution. What did you mean by this? So evolution works in two ways. It has selection, so natural selection or artificial selection, which could be argued as natural because we're all part of nature, but selection. So you have a diverse population. Some people can't tolerate lactose, but your population subsists entirely off of milk products, and so those lactose intolerant people are selected out slowly. They will die off sooner, they'll breed less, and slowly the population will be molded to, there won't be any lactose intolerant people. And so that's selection. Um, that's a natural selection. Artificial selection is like dog breeding. So we say we don't want this feature or we want that feature. We're going to forcibly breed the population in that direction. So it's a form of selection, but it is selection. But the other side, the other part of evolution is mutation, and that has occurred randomly since forever. So as DNA replicates itself, and different sexes merge their chromosomes together, and they merge in random ways. These are the mutations that drive the diversity of a population, and so that's really how it's worked forever. And for a very long time, human beings have been opting out of certain selective processes. We've invented medicine, and we've changed the way that we manipulate the world around us to make the selective forces less impactful. And so that's we've been doing that forever. But kind of we're on the cusp where like now we are in a mode where before the mutative side, the part that actually drives change, that was all just cross-generational. So you had to have a generation after generation after generation to see that effect, and you had to just look for randomness, which I would probably argue the vast majority of mutations are not necessarily positive. Like heart defects and genetic disorders, things like that, are all random mutations. But every once in a while there will be a mutation that is beneficial for the population, for that individual within that population in their current environment. And just as an aside, one of the things an example, I guess, is there was several cases, but there was one specific case I remember where a child was born. They were immediately put up for adoption. The parents in the Midwest somewhere adopted this boy, very early age, and immediately started noticing that this child was not the typical chubby baby, but a very slim baby, and very quickly had gained strength that other toddlers had only dreamed of. So like a very young toddler age child is doing one-arm push-ups and running around, and while other kids that age are still kind of not even crawling. So this child had a mutation that basically supercharged the metabolism and gave it a huge muscle mass. And so as the kid grew up, it was like he was super strong and like into crazy sports and stuff at a very early age. And like so people view that mutation as wildly positive, right? And they're like, that's amazing. And like football coaches and trainers and all kinds of crazy people were like, we need to get that kid's DNA and like replicate the results so that we can do gene therapies and and give it to athletes to supercharge their performance. And they saw it as a positive evolutionary mutation, but the reality is it only positive or negative, the selective forces that are involved in that will will play. And so in that kid being growing up in the United States where calories are plentiful, you never really have to worry about, eating 6 times a day. Um, that's great. Sure, that's a positive mutation because society deems that as a positive, and all the survival mechanisms that surround that mutation are positive. However, if that probably now man, finds himself, without food on African safari, where the truck breaks down for 4 days, he's probably going to die because his metabolism will eat his muscles in no time, whereas a normal person has different processes and slower metabolism and can survive without food for a very long time, but he cannot. So in that environment, in that scenario, that's a negative mutation. He's going to die very quickly. So the benefit or the pro or the con of the mutation entirely relies on um, the environment and the selective forces. Certain mutations, like, I'm just speculating here, but if you had a mutation that like drastically increased bone density and lowered blood pressure, survivable blood pressure to very low, and like all these kind of things that would normally be very, very bad here, would probably be great for space exploration. Um, being able to survive in space for a very long time. It just depends on the environment. So that's what I'm getting at. And kind of circling back to why I think biohacking, and particularly what we're doing, is part of the next phase of human evolution, is that like selection, we are now able to influence the other half of evolution, which is the mutation, the change part. And before it was random, and you would have to have kids in order to see any random possibilities occur in those children, and hopefully they're positive for the environment you're in. However, now we're approaching a moment in time where gene therapies, we're able to actually modify our own genes and modify our human capabilities, which is kind of the end result of a mutative process, right? It's going to affect how you're able to interact with the world. And so for us, implanting devices that are frictionless, managementless, they just disappear into your body. They become part of who you are as a human and what you can do as a human. Um, those types of enhancements are effectively evolving your humanness. And so we're in this part of human evolution where we're making changes and choices on the mutative side, on the change side, the driving side of evolution. And then, of course, we're going to continue to opt out of certain selective processes and cure more diseases and work evolution on both sides so that we arrive at a point where existence is totally by choice, and how you exist will be completely up to you. So um, that's what I mean by that. How many implants do you have today? How do you decide what kind of implant to get? Right now I have 5. The original one I put in 2005, which is a 125 kilohertz EM chip. Then there's the XNT, which is a NFC compliant implantable NFC tag. I have the Flex NT, which is a very thin biopolymer flexible version of the XNT, but it's in a flexible format. That's was a prototype, or an early prototype, and it's in there now. I also have another XCM here, which is a changeable T5577 125 kilohertz chip, and I think right now I have an HID badge on there for getting me into my mailbox, like a UPS store type mailboxes, etc. store that has my mailbox. And then this is the very large prototype right here. You can see it. It's 35 millimeters. Um, that device, you can see where it's put in there. That's a prototype VivoKey, which is a fully contactless secure element Java card platform, which is just a really long way of saying it's a tiny little computer. And I can load security applications on there. I can load Java card applications. I can run Bitcoin wallet transactions. I can do all kinds of stuff with it. And we're working on shrinking that down, obviously. And it's due to be released here pretty soon. But the reason that I get them is for this one for utility, this one because it was a prototype for the crowdfunding campaign in 2014. This one because it's a prototype and a prototype. So I pretty much get them uh, because I'm prototyping and testing them. Um, what advice do you give to somebody who would like to get into biohacking? Well, biohacking is a really large umbrella of things. There's DNA and RNA hacking, genetic work. There's life hacking, like meditating, float tank stuff, or nootropics, or changing the way that you live, lifestyle changes that enhance performance. That's qualified as biohacking. And then what we're doing, which is bionics and human augmentation through implanting devices. So there are a couple resources online, and there's a couple more due to be out in the next few months, actually, that should be pretty interesting. But one of them is biohack.me. It's a forum/wiki. There's some Facebook groups. We have an RFID implantees group on Facebook. You can pretty much Google around and find the groups. It's a growing community, but it is pretty tight knit. So if you find people in it, they will direct you to resources. In your opinion, what does the future of biohacking look like, or maybe what's next for you? I think the future of biohacking is two things. One, there will always be people pushing the envelope, which is great, and those people will be firmly seated in the biohack, uh, you know, nomenclature and like community and everything. And the word, I guess the thing that I would say the most is the word hack. Kind of has this negative connotation for a lot of people, but biohacking, the word hack means kind of an unconventional approach to solving a problem or approaching a solution. So, people that are constantly on the edge are going to be constantly biohacking and pushing these technologies and concepts forward at a more rapid pace than big risk-averse companies or corporate development cycles would rather do incremental, tiny steps, risk-free steps that move very slowly, move us along as a species very slowly. So there's the other half that will be taking these hacks that work well, hacks that are, yes, unconventional, but now they are proven to work better, or they're proven, and they become less of a hack and just more of a cool, new, innovative thing. They'll be taking them to mass market to get society at large to be able to benefit from these technological advances. And so that's basically what I'm working on right now, which is in 2013, I started a company, Dangerous Things, to provide biohacking gear and installation procedures and partnerships with body modification artists and things for that community. But we're now at a point in time where our products are mature, and we've got new products that are cryptographically secure, and our appeal to the general, general masses. Like, you mentioned, I got an RFID implant, and people will say, "Oh yeah, I heard about that." Or if they think they haven't heard about it, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Good for you," kind of thing. So it's time to bring these kind of solutions into the spotlight of mass market product launches, and so that's why we're starting VivoKey Technologies. It's myself and a team. We have some pretty awesome products coming this summer, and I think it's going to be really interesting. Anything else to add? No, I think that's pretty much it. There's all, I could talk ad nauseum about everything until you don't want to hear me anymore. But of course, if there's any more questions, send it to me, and we'll go from there.